beneficiary of your IRA. For more information, contact your financial advisor or call us at 1-800-856-8900.
Funding for Here and Now comes from the listeners of WBUR Boston, where the program is produced, and your NPR station. From MathWorks, creators of MATLAB and Simulink software for technical computing and model-based design. MathWorks, accelerating the pace of discovery in engineering and science. Learn more at mathworks.com. And BetterHelp, committed to supporting mental health through therapy. Clients are matched with one of 25,000 therapists and can communicate via video, chat, or phone at betterhelp.com/public.
It's Here and Now. Basket making, boat building, working with animal hides. These are all folk arts that are part of a long tradition in Scandinavia, and they've also been part of indigenous communities in North America. Today, there are more than 60 folk art schools in the U.S. and Canada. Many are in the U.S. Midwest, particularly Minnesota. John Kalish of WBGO takes us to the North House Folk School in northern Minnesota.
The North House Folk School is located on the north shore of Lake Superior in Grand Marais, Minnesota, just 40 miles from the Canadian border amidst millions of acres of wilderness. Greg Wright is the school's executive director.
Look at this community. It's northern. People who've come to make a way here, people who've been here throughout time, indigenous people. How have they made their way? Well, they've used their hands and they've used skills to shape a life in this landscape.
Wright took me to the blacksmithing shop where kids were banging away at red-hot steel under the watchful eye of their instructor, Cody Myers. I met 10-year-old Alma Jansen, who was there with her two older brothers.
We've been making S-hooks and hangers and leaf hangers, and I'm making a steak flipper for my dad because my dad loves steak.
Is it fun?
Yeah, it's super fun.
Instructor Myers came to North House for a knife-making class in 2011 and now has a business in Wisconsin making hand-forged knife blades. He is one of scores of instructors who teach at North House. Some come from Scandinavia, where similar folk art schools have long thrived. Concerned that so many of the instructors were older, North House developed an artisan development program to encourage young craft makers to pursue teaching. One of the artisans who went through the two-year program is a 34-year-old weaver named Christine Novotny.
I was waking up at 5 a.m. every morning to weave for a few hours before I went to a 40-hour-a-week day job. And then I was weaving in the evenings, and I was doing small shows, and I was starting to sell my work at these larger sales. I felt like I was really committed to this and could use some resources and time to help get me to that next level.
Thanks to a foundation that supports Scandinavian folk arts and crafts, the Artisan Development Program pays for participants to travel to Scandinavia. In Sweden, Novotny met weavers her age who were innovating in the craft. She also met an 83-year-old rug maker and subsequently returned to Sweden to weave a rug with her. Basket maker Emily Durkee also attended the artisan program. She lives in a yurt in Grand Marais and uses spruce roots to make baskets.
My favorite thing in the world is to dig spruce roots with a big group of people.
During her time in the program, Durkee went to Denmark and studied with one of the best willow basket makers in the world. She also visited a rope maker and went to a fish tanning workshop where she learned how to make leather out of salmon skin. Then there was the tannery that works on deer hides.
They live near a reindeer herd, and so when it's slaughter time, they'll keep maybe 300 skins or so. They had a whole lot of hides going, and I just was learning about their processes and tools and methods, and then also got to work on a few hides of my own while I was there. There's not that many places where you can train to be a hide tanner, and that was one of them.
37-year-old woodworker Mike Leffler is working on a red pine log for a timber frame at the home of his mentor, another North House instructor. When Loeffler was in the school's artisan development program, he met traditional carpenters in Norway and went to see old barns and boathouses in Sweden built with Grindbig timber framing, a style that dates back to the 1400s.
I did a little traveling and went to some really stunning places. I brought back a lot of inspiration for sure. Just being in a place where there's so much preserved tradition was a big part of it. You could go to museums and just nerd out about collections of this really esoteric woodworking stuff.
Like Durkee the basket maker and Novotny the weaver, Loeffler decided to settle in Grand Marais when his 2-year artisan residency was up. In a forest on the Lac du Flambeau Ojibwe Reservation in Wisconsin, Biscockene Johnson is peeling bark off a birch tree to use in a variety of crafts, as his people have done for millennia. Johnson is an instructor at North House who makes moccasins, pouches, and traditional baby carriers. He praised the school for hiring indigenous instructors to teach native crafts.
In the past, there was a lot of hobbyists that were teaching our traditional crafts. But the cool thing about North House is they want to do right, and they reached out to myself and a few others, and they're bringing in legitimate cultural people to teach real native art, which is a very, very wonderful thing to experience.
North House Folk School has an effort underway to quadruple the number of indigenous instructors and bring in more indigenous artisans as well. For Here and Now, I'm John Kalish.
We take you everywhere. Here and Now is a production of NPR and WBUR. I'm Robin Young in Boston.
And I'm Scott Tong in Washington, D.C. The latest news is next. It's Here and Now.
This time, I'd like to invite all who are willing to stand for a moment of silence, and then immediately after, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon, and welcome to our meeting for December 12, 2023. Regular meetings are held on the second and fourth Tuesday at 3 p.m. Public hearings are held at 7 p.m. on the fourth Tuesday of each month. Deviations from this schedule will be announced. The meetings are broadcast live on RVTV Channel 3 and will be rebroadcast on Thursday at 7 p.m. and on Sunday from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. Board of Supervisors meetings can also be viewed online through Roanoke County's website at www.roanokecountyva.gov. Our meetings are closed captioned, so it is important for everyone to speak directly into the microphones at the podium. Individuals who require assistance or special arrangements to participate in or attend Board of Supervisors meetings should contact the clerk to the board at 540-772-2005 at least 48 hours in advance. Please turn all cell phones off or place on silent. And at this time, item A is opening ceremonies. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Peters?
Here.
Mr. Mahoney?
Here.
Mr. Norworth?
Here.
Mr. Radford?
Here.
Mrs. Hooker?
Here. Item B, request to postpone, add to, or change the order of agenda items. Is there anyone who needs to make any changes on the board, fellow board members?
No change. No change.
Mr. K. Wood.
Madam Chair, I have no changes, but I would like to welcome all of our guests, as I think this is the most folks we've had in our boardroom in a long time, and it's great to see so many people here.
Absolutely, thank you. Mr. Lubeck?
No changes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Item C, proclamations, resolutions, recognitions, and awards. Item 1, C1, recognizing Roanoke County Lineburgers Construction 100th Anniversary. Megan Baker, Director of Economic Development, and I'll come down and join you at the podium.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I'm here today to recognize Lineburger Construction's 100th anniversary of doing business in the county, and I'm also thrilled to be here joined by members of the Lineburger family. Since its humble beginnings in 1923 as John C. Center Construction, Lineburger Construction has contributed significantly to the growth and development of Roanoke County and the Roanoke Valley. They've played a vital role in constructing iconic structures such as Hotel Roanoke, Cave Spring Post Office, South County Library, and various other commercial and industrial projects. We are fortunate to have Lineburger Construction as a Roanoke County business and extend our sincerest congratulations and gratitude.
Well said. Thank you so much, Megan. And so at this time, we have a resolution in front of us, and would the clerk please read the resolution?
Resolution recognizing Lineburger Construction on their 100-year anniversary. Whereas Lineburger Construction, a cornerstone of the construction industry, based in southwest Roanoke County, is celebrating a century of unwavering commitment, dedication, and excellence. And whereas the history of Lineburger Construction, rooted in the principles laid out by S. Lewis Lineburger, reflects a tradition of quality, craftsmanship, and a commitment to exceeding clients' expectations. And whereas from its humble beginnings in 1923, as John C. Center Construction, to its current incarnation as Lineburger Construction, the company has been a driving force in the construction landscape, leaving an indelible mark on the Roanoke Valley. And whereas Lineburger Construction has contributed significantly to the growth and development of Roanoke County and the Roanoke Valley, playing a vital role in the construction of iconic structures such as Hotel Roanoke, Colonnade 1, Cave Spring Post Office, South County Library, and various commercial and industrial projects. And whereas the Lineburger family's commitment to the community extends beyond the tangible structures they built, encompassing a legacy of trust, integrity, and meaningful relationships that have stood the test of time. And whereas Lineburger Construction's focus on personal connections, attention to detail, and innovative problem-solving define its approach to each project, fostering a sense of pride and accomplishment. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Roanoke County, Virginia Board of Supervisors extends its sincere congratulations and gratitude to Lineburger Construction on the occasion of their 100-year anniversary, and be it further resolved that this resolution serves as a tribute to the legacy of Lineburger Construction, acknowledging their profound impact on the physical landscape of Roanoke County and the enduring relationships built over the years. And be it finally resolved that a copy of this resolution be presented to Lineburger Construction as an expression of the community's appreciation for their contributions and as recognition of their century-long commitment to excellence.
Thank you so much. And so is there a motion to approve?
Madam Chairman, I would move the approval and adoption of this resolution, particularly since their offices are in Cave Spring.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Is there a second?
Second.
And would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Norworth?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Sure. Just on behalf of the whole company, we want to thank you guys for a tremendous honor. It is fun being at downtown Starkey, as we
That's
call
right.
it. And it's been wonderful to do a lot of projects in and around the Roanoke Valley, especially for Roanoke County, and we look forward to many, many more. So thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Is there anybody else who would like to make any comments, board members?
Yeah,
Mr. Radford?
My family has known the Lineburger family for a long time, and we're in the same industry, just a little bit different. They're commercial and we're residential, so it's so great to see the Lineburgers here. And I wish my father could see you guys here today. He would be celebrating 100 years with you also. But thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think it's incredible, as the clerk has read out, all of the different projects you've been involved in. And I guess I want to comment, I put my other hat on, because I'm on the board of directors of Member One Federal Credit Union. And you folks have done new and renovated branches for Member One, lots of them, and they're just fantastic. And you've done them on time and in budget, and they're beautiful. So I just want to thank you for your skill and your professionalism and just what great work you do. Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you very, very much.
Tremendous compliment.
Mr. North?
I just want to add to all the comments and celebratory remarks that we appreciate your brand in the Roanoke Valley, and we look forward to it continuing on for many years, and someone else will be up here in 100 years to celebrate this with you, but keep up the good work. We appreciate your presence, and talk to you later.
Thank you, sir.
I'm just going to echo all the comments that have been made, and congratulations, and I do hope you're around for another 100 years.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate that.
We are so proud of you all. Thank you for honoring us with your presence
Really
tonight.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank all of you.
Let's take a picture.
Okay. Yeah, sure. We'll do a quick picture.
He's going to leave.
Do what?
So the next item on the agenda is C2, resolution recognizing Roanoke County businesses with significant anniversaries in 2023. And again, Ms. Megan Baker, Director of Economic Development.
Yes, we are also delighted to recognize 8 businesses celebrating significant milestones in their years of operation. Businesses celebrating their 25th anniversary include Shoe Doctor of Roanoke, Valhalla Vineyards, 4A Self-Storage, and Greenbrier Nurseries. Businesses celebrating their 50th anniversary include Keltec, Belk, MKB Realtors, and Tanglewood Mall. Congratulations to all of our businesses celebrating these significant anniversaries, and we wish you continued success. And we have several of those businesses here today. Should we invite them up? We have Shoe Doctor of Roanoke. And if I forgot anyone, please let me know. We have Greenbrier Nurseries. We have Caltech and Tanglewood Mall. And have I forgotten anyone else? Okay. Well, thank you all.
Mary Duffville.
So would the clerk please read the resolution?
Resolution recognizing local businesses celebrating significant anniversaries. Whereas Roanoke County takes great pride in the rich history and economic contributions of its local businesses, and whereas longevity and success in business are commendable achievements that contribute to the prosperity and vibrancy of our community, and whereas the following businesses have reached notable milestones in their service to Roanoke County. Shoe Doctor of Roanoke, celebrating 25 years of dedicated service to the community. Valhalla Vineyards, marking 25 years of excellence in the viticulture industry. I always have one word. AAAA Self-Storage, commemorating 25 years of providing secure storage solutions to the residents of Roanoke County. Greenbrier Nursery, celebrating 25 years of cultivating and enhancing the natural beauty of Roanoke County. Caltech, honoring 50 years of innovation and commitment to technology advancements. Belk, recognizing 50 years of offering quality retail services to the citizens of Roanoke County. MKB Realtors, commemorating 50 years of professionalism and excellence in the real estate industry. Tanglewood Mall, celebrating 50 years as a premier shopping destination in Roanoke County. Now therefore be it resolved that the Roanoke County, Virginia Board of Supervisors hereby recognizes and applauds the enduring commitment, hard work, and success of these businesses, wishing them continued prosperity and growth in the years to come. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be presented to each business as a token of our community's gratitude and as a testament to their invaluable contributions to the economic and social fabric of Roanoke County.
Excellent. Very well said. There's a resolution, a motion. I'll entertain.
Motion.
And so is there a second?
Second.
And would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes. Thank you so much. So is there anyone that would like to speak on behalf of your company? This is your opportunity to say a few words.
I have to practice self-control.
We know that about you. So we are so proud of all of you, and the legacy businesses that you represent are just outstanding. So thank you so much for doing business in Roanoke County and for the longevity that you've had. Thank you for all your good work. Is there anyone that wishes to say anything before we get pictures? Yes, Mr. North.
I was just looking at the meeting package. It looks like a total of 300 years amongst everyone here that's represented. That's huge. And congratulations to all of you. I know the Shoe Doctor, I see him quite often. As a matter of fact, his brand is on my foot right now. And he does all my shoe work, so I just wanted him to know that. He wouldn't say that today because his wife's here, but I would. So thank you. Thank you all for your presence in Roanoke County and the impact you have on our economy. Appreciate that.
Any other comments?
You know, I think on the behalf of the board, we want to thank all of you for what you're doing. And a lot of times you'll see in the media where the county chair or vice chair or county administrator will go out and have a big ribbon cutting for some big, huge industry that comes to town. But I think almost all of you are small businesses. And in my view, you are really the backbone of our economy in the Roanoke region. And I think it's from you that I think we derive as a community our strength. And so I just want to thank all of you for what you do. I mean, I know it's tough, and particularly during COVID, it was really tough to keep your businesses running, and you survived. And that's critical, and that's important. So again, I want to thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mahoney. Anybody else wish to say a few words before we
Say
move on?
congratulations, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We appreciate you all being here. Let's get a picture. We're not going to let you leave yet.
Get Mike Ruth over here close to me so I can keep him straight.
Big smiles. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you all. Thank you. Hey, Mike, is this your son? Is that your son? Yes, nice to meet you. Yes, sir. He speaks highly of you.
You know, I think either my wife or I have used 7 of the 8 services that are listed there.
I was thinking the same thing.
Are we ready to move on? So item C3 is resolution recognizing Mariah Ward, Assistant Director of Information Technology, for her exemplary service to Roanoke County. Mr. Richard L. Kaywood, County Administrator.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. First, I have to point out that Mariah is a somewhat reluctant recognee this afternoon, because when I called her and said I wanted to recognize her work, she said, you need to invite the whole team. But I told her she had to come anyway. As you all know, we just went through a huge transition with our email system. For those of you who are watching in the public who have not worked here, for many, many years we used an email product called GroupWise that most people have never heard of. But for a little history lesson, back when WordPerfect had a competing Office suite to Microsoft Office, GroupWise was the email that you got with that. And long ago and far away, Roanoke County adopted this email platform, and we had used it ever since until about a month ago. And Mariah led a team of our IT professionals to work on the implementation and moving us to a more modern platform with Microsoft Office. In addition to that, we got a new file storage system, we got new Office applications, all of our mobile devices had to have new clients. And this is just a Herculean undertaking. And the thing that really struck me as I thought about this, of all the things that have taken place at Roanoke County since I have worked here, this is probably the one thing that I worried about. I think about things a lot, but I worry about things very seldom. But I worried about this because I've seen countless articles in the newspaper of failed email transitions. There's been some local governments where things went so badly they had to turn the old product back on and try again. And I just thought it was extremely high risk. I had Mariah and her team over to this office many, many times, asking questions and going through details. Mariah kept telling me not to worry. We had a good team. We had good people advising us, and it was all going to be fine. And sure enough, we did the transition, and it worked almost flawlessly. I think it's about the best conversion we could have hoped for if we had done it 100 times. I didn't lose anything. I haven't heard about anybody losing anything. The old system went down. The new system came up. All the data transferred over. It was just A-plus work on a very difficult, but most importantly, a very high-risk challenge. And while I love team recognition. I also like to recognize individual achievement. And for Mariah, it was her ability to lead this high-risk project, put up with me during it, and just make sure that everything took place correctly, because I can guarantee if the result had been less good, we would all be looking to Mariah asking what happened. But fortunately, it went very well, and it's really my privilege to bring her forward, to have her work recognized by the full board.
So, Mariah, we are really proud of you, and thank you for all your good work. Would the clerk please read the resolution?
Resolution recognizing Mariah Ward, Assistant Director of Information Technology, for her exemplary service to Roanoke County. Whereas in April 2003, Mariah Ward was hired by Roanoke County as the Application Services Manager, and during her tenure was promoted to Assistant Director of Information Technology in March 2019. And whereas Mariah has been responsible for leading all aspects of IT operations, including infrastructure, application, enterprise, and GIS service teams. And whereas she has been responsible for strategic technology planning and policies, project oversight, and training plans. And whereas Mariah has served in a leadership role for multiple projects, including the public safety systems, E911, CAD, police, fire records, and mobile modules, revenue systems, HP migration to Windows SQL for replacement of permitting, enterprise GIS, revenue tax billing, cashiering, real estate appraisal, school personnel budgeting, and jury systems, Tyler content management, and citizen self-service bill presentations, online credit card payments, and a significant role in adoption of initial major county vendor and cloud-hosted applications, Lawson HR and payroll, and Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Max Galaxy. And whereas she has researched and prepared security planning guidelines and requests in preparation for increasing cybersecurity challenges and funding opportunities. And whereas Mariah worked tirelessly to lead a successful M365 rollout for 1,350 users across the organization using phased module deployment approach, which includes coordinating vendor selection and management, project teams, and organizational communication for the multi-year project. And whereas Mariah's positive attitude and commitment to her work makes a difference every day in many of the Roanoke County's employees' and citizens' lives. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Roanoke County expresses its deepest appreciation and the appreciation of the citizens of Roanoke County to Mariah Ward for her dedicated service to Roanoke County. And further, the Board of Supervisors does express its best wishes for continued success in the future.
What great commentary. Thank you, Madam Clerk. And I think it's just a tip of the iceberg of what you have done. There's a resolution that has been read. Is there a motion to approve?
I would move to approve the resolution since she lives in the Cave Spring district.
Is there a second?
Second.
And would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Cooker?
Yes. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to say a few words if you'd like to. You want to do that now?
Yes. I'm still going to thank my team. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. Thank you for this recognition for me. The IT teams and I are dedicated to deploying and supporting systems that are reliable, innovative, and well protected for both our county staff and as well as businesses and citizens who live in Roanoke County. I would not be here without the constant effort and exceptional skills of all of the IT team members, as well as the engaged technology stakeholders that were across the county for projects like M365 that are transforming the way we do our work. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mariah. Job well done, and we look forward to many more years. Are there any board members? Yes, Mr. North.
You know, I came from Norfolk Southern in my career, and then I retired and came over here as a supervisor. A few years later, and we got here, and I'm like, what's this group-wise? We had Outlook. And so when you were making the transition and Richard was talking about it, I was thinking, well, you know, hopefully this will work out because this is probably a big project for the county. But let me tell you a little funny story. When we merged with Norfolk Southern and Conrail, on day one, they threw the switch for both integrating their computer system with ours. Primarily, the most important piece was making sure cars were going in the right direction. And what came out of that a few days after they threw the switch was a term called ping pong cars. Cars would go to Atlanta, turn around, and go back to the origin they came from. It was a debacle. It took months to fix. And the person in charge of that used to work with us. He left and went to Harvard and got his master's degree. He came back into the employment of Norfolk Southern as the IT person in Atlanta that was in charge of putting these two systems together. He later became our chief executive officer. So if things hadn't gone well here, you might have been the county administrator one day. That's how it worked out in a big Fortune 500 company. But great job so far. I'm still getting used to the system, but I haven't found anything to complain about, which is pretty amazing because I usually always find something to complain about.
I'm glad he said it.
Any other comments?
Yes. So it's very humbling for you to recognize your team. But everybody has a little bit of a captain, somebody to steer the ship, and that's why you're here, is that we're thanking you for doing that. But you're right, it takes a team to roll out something like M365. But thank you.
Absolutely.
Back in the day when I was county attorney, Mariah was spending so much time in the county attorney's office educating us because we had these horrible contracts from all the software vendors, and we did not understand what they meant. And so Mariah was spending so much time with us, I thought I had another assistant county attorney because she was educating us as to what these crazy terms and provisions in these, 40-page contracts meant. I got to work very closely with her, and you've done a great job for Roanoke County.
You didn't have email back then, did you?
Yeah. We did smoke signals.
Yeah.
Well, I too want to add, I've been with a number of organizations that have made a lot of changes and upgraded systems. And to Richard's point, I don't know of a single one that went smoothly. So I was also very apprehensive about this changeover. And, Richard can say what he wants to, but he's the one telling us, oh, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. So it was fine, and I do appreciate you and your staff and everything that you did to make it work so smoothly. So thank you very much.
Right. I hope you feel very appreciated. We really appreciate all you do for the county, so thank you. Let's get a picture.
Put them in the agenda.
We'll just conduct the rest of the meeting down here. And so we've got item 4, C4 is resolution of appreciation for P. Jason Peters for his service as a member of the Board of Supervisors from 2014 through 2023. So if you would come down, please, Jason. I know that we have a resolution, and if the clerk would go ahead and read the resolution, please.
Resolution of appreciation to P. Jason Peters for his service as a member of the Board of Supervisors from 2014 through 2023. Whereas P. Jason Peters was first elected to represent the Vinton Magisterial District on the Board of Supervisors of Roanoke County on January 1, 2014, and has served through December 31, 2023. And whereas during his tenure as a member of the board, Supervisor Peters served with exemplary professionalism and dedication, working on behalf of the people of his district and all citizens of Roanoke County. And whereas his leadership skills were recognized by his fellow board members when he was chosen to serve as chairman of the Board of Supervisors in the years 2015, 2016, and most recently in 2021. And whereas Supervisor Peters consistently focused on the best interest of not just his district, but of the county as a whole, demonstrating a keen understanding of the scope and complexity of issues facing local governments and a willingness to work cooperatively towards viable long-term solutions. And whereas Supervisor Peters expressed unwavering advocacy for public safety, 911 operations, and all county employees, which has been instrumental in enhancing the well-being of our community. His commitment to ensuring a secure and resilient environment is truly commendable. And whereas Supervisor Peters recognized the importance of ensuring that our children's success and meeting the needs of the business community, and was a strong advocate of the Memorandum of Understanding with Roanoke County Public Schools to fund $130 million for school capital project, which includes a new career and technical education center and renovations for 2 elementary schools. And whereas Supervisor Peters supported economic development initiatives, including but not limited to redevelopment of Roland E. Cook School into 21 loft apartments by Old School Partners LLC, redevelopment of William Byrd High School into 80 market rate apartments by Waukesha Development, Inc., sale of the former Benton Library for a full-service McAdoo's restaurant, acquisition of the 110-acre Woodhaven Road properties through the Western Virginia Industrial Facilities Authority, completion of the Reimagine 419 Town Center study and community visioning process, revitalization of Tanglewood Mall in the Route 419 area, completion of Roanoke County's first ever community strategic plan, completion of the Explore Park Master Plan and multiple infrastructure improvements, multiple business locations and expansions, including Wells Fargo, Carilion Children's, Carillion's Mental Health, AEP, VFP, PFG, Metis Plaza, Vista Eye Center, Cardinal Glass, and Mack Trucks, the new Bond Sack Fire Station, and the new Vinton Restaurants, 107 South Pollard, and Pokey Joe's. Whereas Supervisor Peters represented Roanoke County on numerous civic and governmental committees, including the Audit Committee, Chief Local Elected Officials Consortium, Roanoke Valley Regional Cable Television Committee, and Virginia's first Regional Industrial Facility Authority. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Roanoke County, Virginia expresses its deepest appreciation and the appreciation of the citizens of Roanoke County to P. Jason Peters for his commitment to public service and the many significant contributions he made as a member of the Board of Supervisors. And further, the Board of Supervisors congratulates Supervisor Peters at the conclusion of his term of office and wishes him continued success in his future. Sorry.
That was a lot to read, but Jason, the bottom line is that we really appreciate all you've done for Roanoke County, and there's more to be said about that. But we've heard the resolution. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve,
And
Madam
a second?
Second?
And would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Peters?
I'll abstain.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Norworth?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes. So thank you very much. So Jason, for the public, we just need to make sure everyone understands that he ran for Commissioner of Revenue and won, was very successful in that race, and he has done a lot, as that lengthy resolution detailed. I first got to know him well through the Planning Commission many years ago, and then our time together here on this board. But Jason has just very much been an integral part of this county and a lot of the decisions that have been made here, and a good friend. So we are really going to miss you. We know that you're going to be you're going to be in the building. It's all good, but we will miss your service here on this board and on this team together. Mr. North.
Yes, this was the gentleman that twisted my arm for about 10 months. And I'm like, I'll just stay away from him for a while. He'll stop bugging me. But eventually I made my decision to run on the board. So you can thank, or you can blame Jason, whichever you choose. And he's going to be in the county building more than he ever has been, more than I'm over here, or Paul, or anybody else. And he's going to help us with personal property tax reductions, hopefully in the future, because that's his area. So
The PLF fee, I'll make a first mention, but we'll talk about that after January.
Yeah, and Kevin will help you. Anyway, congratulations on your victory, and good luck on your training. And but you're still here till the end of the month, so don't shut your email off or your cell phone. It might still be needed. And good luck to you.
Jason, too, I'm looking at the resolution, that's a lot of stuff. But I got to know you, Jason, on the planning commission, and so we had that experience, and then I went away for a while, and then you went up to the board, and then I showed up a few years later. But you have done a lot for the community, and to me, volunteering for the fire and rescue takes a lot of determination and a lot of time too. And so, my wife prays for your family as you go through this transition. It's a new chapter for you guys, and if you need your office remodeled, I know a good contractor can help you.
I'll keep that in mind.
This is a very bittersweet moment. I think all of us were very happy that you were successful in your election. But I think, at least speaking for me, kind of disappointed that we won't have, or I won't have, your wisdom, your knowledge, your experience on this board. As I said yesterday at the investiture, I think this is one of the best boards that I can remember that I ever served with, going back to the mid-1980s. And yeah, we have our differences with respect to some land use matters, but I think on our primary goals, we were unified. And I think your advice and your wisdom and your recommendations help move us forward and be successful, as you heard from the long list of successful projects in Roanoke County. So, like I said, it's kind of bittersweet. Now, Madam Chair, I know this was a resolution. We don't normally have public comments, but I think there is an individual in the back of the room who may have wanted to speak against the resolution. Does Mr. Hutchins, the treasurer, want to speak to this issue?
I'll decline to speak.
All right. Want to give you that opportunity.
Thank you for everything, Jason.
Yeah, if you don't mind. So when I started in 2014, I was the youngest member of the board, and that was brought to my attention a number of times. But 10 years later, I'm still the youngest, and I'm the most senior of the board. I'm on my fourth county administrator, third sheriff, my third fire chief, I had 2 police chiefs. So there's been a lot of changes, and I can't remember how many HR directors we've had, but through all that, we've had 1 clerk. And I'm not sure how she's put up with all of us, but no comment, Debbie. But to your comment yesterday, Paul, and it was very true, as I think back over my time on the board, just in my 10 years, I've seen this board at its best and its worst. We were at every other week you could be guaranteed a Dan Casey article about the antics of the night before. But you're right, today we talk about, we have our differences of opinion, but I believe at the end of the day, when we cast that vote, it's not about our districts, it's about what's right for Roanoke County. And I think that we've proven that over and over again. I appreciate the resolution, everything was involved, and everyone had a hand in putting it together. There's been a lot of changes in my district that I am very proud of. The revitalization of the downtown area, the two schools that sit empty for a long time, and as Paul, as you very well remember, it was the discussion point, and again, Dan Casey articles of the 20,000 items that were in the old William Byrd that we had to find a way to discard and try to move that forward. But I'm happy to say that a lot of things have taken place that have been good for my district. We all were at Illuminites a few weeks ago. I'm very proud of the Explore Park and how well it's moved along. But like I said, more importantly, it's that everything we have done, we've done it together. I heard it said one time that if you ever find a turtle on a fence post, he didn't get there by himself. And I feel the same way. We have done a great job together. Richard and I spoke at lunch a few weeks ago, and we talked about the 419, reimagined 419 that I threw out there. I think it was 2016, and I even had a couple board members tell me I was crazy. But I look today and see how well it's progressed. And that again has to do with all of us. The Woodhaven property that Martha and I stood at the the Green Ridge Center announcing that purchase. And there was not a lot of happy people about that. The government shouldn't be involved. And while typically I do agree with that, it was the vision of what we were hoping to achieve. And I know we were going to achieve on that site. That's going to be a great addition for all of Roanoke County and the region. Now the tough part. No? So to my friends on the board, you are not only just board members, you're friends and a part of my family. In 2017, as all of you know, that I went through my cancer diagnosis and my surgery in September of 2017. And that was right in the middle of a campaign. Martha came to my district, Joe McNamara, who's moved on to our state delegate. I'll never forget Phil came by my house, picked me up, he knew I was determined. He puts me in his Toyota Camry, and off we go to stuff in paper boxes. Because that's all I could do. I had tubes hanging out of my neck. I mean, but I was determined to keep moving. And I'm thankful for everybody who was there for me then. As you know, 2 years ago tomorrow, I lost my son. And again, all of you were there. The administration. I mean, this truly, in the time that I've been here, this has become a huge family to me, and I'm so thankful. It's been an honor for me to serve with each one of you. The journey doesn't end here. I will be right down the hall. I will be here. As someone else asked me, said, is it going to be hard to distinguish, to understand your new role since being on the board? And I said, no, it won't be. I said, because I know what my job is, and I'm going to do my job. But I'm here. Any knowledge I have, I'm still willing to give it, whether you want to hear it or not. And I'm willing to help this board any way I can, because ultimately I want what's best for Roanoke County. That's what I wanted over the last 10 years, and that's what I want to see continue in the future. So with that, thank you.
We love you and we admire you. How about we
Thank
all
you.
come down for a picture for this one? You gotta hold this.
Oh. Up here.
Hey, can I ask you a question? You're going to have an icebox with Diet Dr. Pepper in it and water when we come down to see you.
You come on, I'll make sure it's there.
And so we will continue on with item D1, presentation of year-end financial results for June 30th, 2023, acceptance of audit report and allocation of year-end funds. Jessica Beamer, Assistant Director of Finance and Management Services.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. I'm here today to present the audited financial statements for the year ended June 30th, 2023. Before I get too far, I want to first give a huge recognition to the entire Finance and Management Services team. There are a handful of audit team members with me here today in the back row if they want to wave. I won't invite them up here, but I cannot say how thankful I am to have such a strong team. Each year, the financial reporting gets a little more complex and our report gets a little bit longer, and the team has put in so many long days making sure that our county has properly reported financial statements. John Aldridge, partner for Brown Edwards, our external auditor, is also with me this afternoon and will review the results of the audit in just a few minutes. On September 26th, we held a work session with the board on preliminary year-end results for fiscal year 2023. There have been no changes since we reviewed the financial results with you. Attached to the board report is a slide from that work session which outlined our recommendations on the allocation for fiscal year 2023 year-end remaining funds. We recommend accepting the audited financial statements for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2023, and allocating the year-end savings as mentioned and as shown on attachment 1 in the board report. I'll now invite Mr. Aldridge forward to discuss the audit results with you. And once he is done, we do ask the board to approve the audited financial statements and year-end allocations.
Good afternoon. Good to see you all. Just to reiterate what she said, as you know, each year you all have to have an audit. The state requires it. But what's unique about the County of Roanoke is it's not only the county's audit we have to do the school board and EDA as well. So that process starts all the way back in April. So you go from April all the way to the end of November during doing this audit. So as a result, there's a lot of coordination, and you have a very strong staff that makes sure that this gets done and gets done on time. Because as you know, these reports are due to the state by December 15th. So you're ahead of the deadline, which is a good thing. There are a lot of localities that don't make that deadline. So again, you all are there. I'll just point out a few things to you all today. You did get what's called an unmodified or a clean opinion. That's as good as it gets. So that's what you want. So it says unmodified, but that means it's good. So you had a clean opinion on the financial statements. In addition to the financial statements, we have to look at a certain percentage of the federal money that comes through the county. And that includes the school board as well. So you kind of put it all in a big pot, and we have to audit it. And that's around $32 million. So you all had $32 million of federal money that we had to audit this year. We look at approximately 20% of that. So in doing that, the programs we tested, there were no findings at all, meaning you spent the money the way it was supposed to, you followed all the rules, and you complied with everything that they asked you to comply with. So again, that's clean. And then the last piece we have to look at looks at the state compliance, because as you know, the state, just all the way from the basic things as filling out those disclosure statements that y'all have to, economic interest statements. We have to look at all that kind of stuff to make sure you're doing that timely. And so in doing all that work as well, there were no findings at all. So long story short, you all did amazing this year. You had a great audit, your staff got it done on time, and then those on the back end that are in charge of programs, they know what they're doing, and there were no compliance issues there. So with that being said, I know the audit committee met earlier today, went into much more detail than this, but I'm happy to answer any questions you all might have at this time.
Any questions?
No questions. Just one question or comment. I'm assuming that this was kind of an unusual year, or at least the last two, with all of the federal money, all the ARPA dollars. And so as you mentioned sort of in passing, that added a significant amount of additional work and headaches to account for all that. Are you seeing that with some of your other clients?
Yes, sir. What has happened the last couple of years with all this federal money coming in, you know, a lot of localities find themselves in a position of, okay, what are we going to do with it? How are we going to spend it? And that's never a good thing if a locality is just given a bunch of money and said, you got to spend it, because that's just rife for issues to happen, not spending it appropriately. And again, so what your staff have done, they've taken their time, they've gone through it, and they've made sure we have a plan and how we've spent that money was appropriate. But yeah, the last 2 years we have seen that, you know, that kind of curve in what they call intergovernmental revenue. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
Well, it doesn't really relate to the audit, but what it does relate to is the forecasting we did. I read this, someone wrote this, did you write this? Well, let me just make a point about the accuracy of the audit is really great, and it's good to hear that news. But we were very close in our numbers on budgeting. And I'm going to tell you that this is not something that's done just haphazardly and it just looks this way. Y'all put some science behind it, and it justified the action we took on personal property and on real estate reduction on our rates. And, you know, maybe there's some room for a little more activity next year. We'll just have to discuss that in the new year. But that was a good report. I enjoyed reading that. And the way it was written was really to the point, and good job, whoever put that together. And I'm sure it was your staff, and you had a hand in it. So
Thank you.
thank you.
So is there a motion to approve the staff recommendation?
I'll make a motion, Madam Chair.
And is there a second?
Second.
And would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Item D2, resolution adopting legislative priorities for the 2024 session of the Virginia General Assembly and petitioning the General Assembly to favorably consider the priorities addressed herein. Mr. Peter Lubeck, County
Good
Attorney.
afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. It has been a pleasure working with each of you to develop the list of your top legislative priorities for the General Assembly's 2024 session. And based on the direction that I have received from each of you, I have drafted a resolution that sets forth your 5 main priorities. And for the benefit of Roanoke County citizens who may be watching today's proceedings, I will read this brief resolution in its entirety. It states, whereas the Board of Supervisors of Roanoke County has identified legislative priorities of local and statewide concern to be considered during the 2024 session of the Virginia General Assembly, and whereas the board adopts this resolution setting forth its legislative priorities and respectfully petitions the General Assembly to favorably consider such, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors of Roanoke County, Virginia, that the following 5 priorities are submitted for the General Assembly's consideration during its 2024 session. Number 1, education K through 12 funding. The county supports making additional state resources and grant funding available to localities to support school capital needs, including rehabilitation and upgrades to existing facilities, as well as construction of new facilities. The county urges the General Assembly to simplify the eligibility requirements of the existing school construction assistance program by basing grant eligibility on the school division's local composite index value, the locality's level of fiscal stress, and site readiness. The county urges the General Assembly to provide economic development workforce grants that could be used to fund career and technical education capital projects. Number 2, mental health and public hospital needs. The county urges the General Assembly to use available funds to continue the operation and expansion of Catawba Hospital. Number 3, airport expansion. The county urges the General Assembly to provide funding for the Roanoke-Blacksburg Regional Airport to support a needed runway extension and other airport improvements to foster regional economic development. Number 4, broadband expansion. The county urges the General Assembly to use state and federal funding to improve access to and affordability of broadband to promote the goal of statewide coverage. And 5, Children's Services Act. The county supports enhancing the ability of local school divisions to serve children with disabilities, to include flexibility in the use of state pool funds, to serve children with high-level needs and local or regional programs tailored to meet those needs at a local option. The county supports exploration of enhancements to the Students with Intensive Support Needs Application, or SISNA, or a similar funding mechanism with the Department of Education to enable more children to be supported within the public school environment. And the county supports continued investment of state resources to assist in local administration of CSA programs. And as we have done in the past, we have condensed these priorities into an at-a-glance card, which has been provided several copies to you. We know that this is a hot item, and so we have printed off many copies of the card, so hope that you will let staff know if you need more copies. But I would like to thank Christine McGowan and Kaylin Spickler for their assistance in formatting and printing these cards. I have, of course, reviewed each of your priorities with Eldon James, our legislative liaison, and he asked me to extend his greetings to each of you today. He regretted that he was unable to join us personally, but I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Mr. Lubeck?
Just for the record, I know what the answer is, but you're going to mail these out tomorrow
Yes, sir.
to all of our delegates and what have you. And by the way, we're going to Richmond, I think, on the 30th of January until the morning of February the 1st. So, make sure we got plenty of cards to hand out, even though they might have one already.
Yes, sir.
And nobody else can beat us when it comes to this. Our neighbors next door south of us, and I won't name them publicly, but they did a nice job on theirs, but they didn't put the crease.
It does not fold.
There you go.
And therefore, when it was folded, it didn't look quite as nice. So good job on this.
Thank you, sir.
To Christina and you and everyone else, our staff.
So is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
I'll make the motion.
And is there a second?
Second.
And would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Norworth?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes. Item E, first reading of ordinances. Ordinance accepting and appropriating funds in the amount of $820,000 and granting signatory authority to the county administrator or his designee to execute a grant agreement with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, for the Woodhaven Technology Park Water Service Extension. Mr. Doug Blunt, Assistant County Attorney, welcome.
Ooh, I think I got a promotion.
Assistant County Administrator, excuse me.
I like the transfer, get to work with Peter.
Did you send him back to where he came?
Maybe.
Oh,
I know.
subliminal message.
No,
I'm glad you realized that as a promotion.
yeah, absolutely. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. In April of 2022, Roanoke County partnered with the Western Virginia Regional Industrial Facility Authority and the Western Virginia Water Authority to submit a fiscal year 2023 community project funding appropriations request to Virginia's 9th District Congressman Morgan Griffith in the amount of $820,000 through the Consolidated Appropriations Act. The purpose of this request was to help fund the construction of a water line extension underneath Interstate 81, which will provide connectivity between an existing 16-inch diameter water main located along Lock Haven Road and Woodhaven Technology Park, and provide a redundant water connection with a larger quantity of available water supply. The proposed project seeks to increase the water supply to the 110-acre park, making the site significantly more attractive to water-intensive business operations that may be interested in establishing a facility in the park. In March of 2023, Roanoke County was awarded $820,000 in community project funding for the construction of this water line underneath Interstate 81. This water line will construct a 400 linear foot, 24-inch water main crossing underneath the interstate, and a 40 linear foot, 24-inch water main connection point to the park that will help to connect the North Loop transmission main line to the park and connect the two areas together, and this will help to maximize the available water capacity. This additional connection will allow for the looping of the water distribution system, which will provide greater available fire flow for future development in the community, which is critical for public safety. The CPF grant provides investments in the wide variety of projects such as housing, public facilities, parks, and other critical infrastructure. The $820,000 grant is 100% federal funding with no local match requirement. This is a reimbursable grant through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The total project costs are $1,490,000 for the planning, engineering, and construction of the water line. The Water Authority will request reimbursement for Roanoke County for construction expenses not to exceed $820,000. Roanoke County and the Water Authority will have an MOU for this project. The Water Authority will fund the remaining balance of the project with the exception of the environmental study for this particular project. It requires a very intense environmental study since it is federal money, and the Department of Economic Development in Roanoke County is funding this study from its operating budget in the amount of $21,915.24. Construction of the water line underneath Interstate 81 is anticipated to begin in August of 2024, and it will take 12 months and end in August of 2025. The grant agreement period of performance has an end date of August 31st of 2031. I would like to take a moment to thank Congressman Morgan Griffith and his staff for not only supporting this grant application, but for pushing it through, because this did require Congress to approve it, but also his staff for working with us through this process and helping us along the way with the project. In addition, I would also like to thank several Roanoke County staff that have helped or is helping with this project. First, I want to thank Megan Cronice because she wrote the successful grant application. Megan is very, very talented in writing grant applications and should be recognized for her work. But I also want to thank Lindsay Webb and Carly Foster for helping to administer this federal grant and working with HUD through this process. This is very different than many of the other VDOT projects that we have worked with in the past. Staff recommends approval of the first reading and setting second reading for January 9th of 2024, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions for Mr. Blunt?
Not a question, but more of a comment. And I know there's a lot of information in the staff report, but I appreciate what Doug said. A lot of thanks to Congressman Griffith in shepherding this through the federal congressional process in Washington. Next, I want to emphasize for a lot of people maybe watching on cable TV, emphasizing the fact that this is a regional project. This is not just a Roanoke County project. The whole idea is to improve the availability and the access and the good things for Woodhaven to try to lure a wonderful project and prospect to come there. And it's not just Roanoke County. We're partners with the city of Roanoke and the city of Salem. So all of us are together. So the neat thing is we have federal congressional support. We have regional support with our partners in the valley. This is going to help all of us in the region. And I think it's wonderful. The Water Authority is donating funds to help pay the cost of this. And you can imagine how expensive and how difficult it'll be to drill under I-81. And I look at our friends from VDOT back in the corner, they're probably, they're getting a little worried about that. But, this is a big project, and there's a lot involved here, but I want to emphasize the fact that it is a regional project that'll benefit all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, well spoken. Anything else?
Just to add to that, that regional characteristic is what helps our representatives, whether Congress or locally in the General Assembly in Richmond. That aspect and characteristics is what helps to sell what we need from them to help this area, because it's not just for Roanoke County, as everyone knows, and as Mr. Mahoney has said, it helps the region. And so that's what resonates with folks that can help us out. And by the way, to get money from the federal government, I got to kudos to, if they don't get it for us, someone else is going to get it elsewhere in the country. So it's there, and we all pay taxes, and the money goes to Washington and Virginia. So, why not this area? So thank you.
Mr. Radford.
Yeah, and also, I definitely want to say thank you to my friend Morgan Griffith for helping shepherd this along. But Doug, also, you mentioned Megan for writing the grant, Carly and Lindsay for their help in that. But there's also a hidden gem to getting this water across. We actually help increase the fire flows for fire safety. And so that's an added benefit that is going to help the community as you plug in from the other side. It just boosts the power, because I know when we were building Green Ridge, we were very marginal with fire flow. Not now, no, it's good now. But it's good to get that additional fire flow.
Anything else, Mr. Peters? So is there a motion to approve the first reading and schedule the second reading for January 9th?
Make a motion.
And a second?
Second.
And would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Norworth? Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Norworth?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes. Item F, public hearing and adoption of resolution. Resolution authorizing the abandonment of a 0.03-mile portion of State Route 1901, Robertson Lane, which is currently in the Virginia Department of Transportation Secondary State Highway System, Holland's Magisterial District. Megan Cronice, Assistant Director of Planning. Welcome.
Thank you. Just one moment.
Yeah, that's
Thank
why I was
you.
wondering if you got that.
Thank you so much.
Figured it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. We have a presentation this afternoon for the Robertson Lane right-of-way abandonment. The request was submitted by RYT LLC and JS Bone LLC on July 14th, 2023 to vacate .03 mile of public right-of-way at the end of Robertson Lane to facilitate redevelopment of 4 parcels. Robertson Lane is parallel to Plantation Road and perpendicular to Williamson Road, and we have some additional graphics. But the green circle indicates the piece of right-of-way that is currently VDOT right-of-way that is the subject of this public hearing. The issue is, as part of the Plantation Road widening and relocation project in the early 1980s, VDOT purchased .17 acre of fee simple right-of-way to construct a cul-de-sac at the end of Robertson Lane. The applicant desires to purchase this right-of-way to facilitate redevelopment of 4 adjoining parcels, which are outlined in total in red there. The Virginia Code Section 33.2-909 outlines the process for abandonment of a secondary road that is deemed to be no longer necessary for the uses of the highway system that Roanoke County and VDOT have been working through for some time. This aerial imagery is from 1979. Thank you to Darren Jones with ComIT for finding it for me. This is showing Robertson Lane and how it used to intersect with Williamson Road. You can see here, this is Robertson Lane. This is Jean's Trading Post as we know it now, and the other parcels that are involved with the proposed redevelopment. Plantation Road is to the west before it was realigned. Here's Williamson Road. You can see Plantation is offset. It does not go straight across Williamson Road like it does today. This 1995 aerial imagery shows Plantation Road widened to 5 lanes and realigned. Robertson Lane was terminated with a new cul-de-sac at this time with the parcel that VDOT obtained. You can also see that Williamson Road to the east is only 2 lanes wide before it was widened to 5 lanes. At this point, Plantation is realigned to go straight as it is today. In 2021, this is basically existing conditions. We see Plantation Road as it is today, the Williamson Road intersection, Robertson Lane still is at this cul-de-sac, and the subject parcels outlined in red again. Are there any questions on the aerial imagery? Thank you. So this project history. In November of 2022, Roanoke County and the applicant discussed the convenience store with gas pumps concept with proposed Robertson Lane right-of-way changes. In February and March of 2023, the applicant worked on the traffic impact analysis and submitted it to VDOT. March of 2023, Roanoke County began identifying potential actions needed with an associated timeline for proposed right-of-way changes. As you know, redevelopment in Roanoke County is typically complicated, and there's a number of steps to redevelop property, especially when you're combining several parcels and including VDOT. On April 14th of 2023, the site plan was submitted. In June of 2023, Roanoke County, VDOT, and the applicant met to determine the process for abandoning the right-of-way to enable VDOT to sell that parcel. July 14th, the adjacent property owner submitted the right-of-way vacation request to Roanoke County to start this process, and on September 28th, the site plan was approved. The approved site plan is shown here, which is also the exhibit on the right at the top. What this shows is a proposed gas station with pumps, convenience store with a drive-through, as well as a number of parking spaces. A right-in, right-out is proposed on Williamson Road. There's also a right-in, right-out proposed on Plantation Road. And then the Robertson Lane access point with Plantation Road is a full access entrance where you can turn left, you can turn right, to and from Plantation and Robertson. So this was the goal, was to be able to get a full access intersection away from the Williamson and Plantation intersection, which is shown here at Robertson. What this also does is it realigns Robertson Road because of the potential acquisition of this parcel here, and it terminates the right-of-way sooner. So the cul-de-sac was located here, and the road would be shortened, and a new branch-style turnaround would be constructed to replace the cul-de-sac as an appropriate means of turnaround for a state roadway. This also shows additional widening on Robertson Lane to access the driveway to get to the gas station and convenience store. Are there any questions on the approved site plan concept? Approved site plan?
Just one question. What was the length of that branch portion of the turnaround that's on the approved site plan?
I don't have the exact dimension. I think it was around 25 feet, but Ryan Gatewood, the engineer, is here. 31 feet.
31 feet
Thank you, Ryan.
long?
31 feet long, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Why didn't they just link into Robertson Lane as opposed to building a whole new road?
So the area out here is topographically challenged.
Oh, okay.
I mentioned Roanoke, it's Roanoke County flat. It's not really all that flat. So there is a topography change between Robertson Lane and Plantation Road, where Robertson actually sits a bit above the roadway. So there's a lot of grading that needs to happen here to facilitate the development. So if everything were flat, Eastern Shore flat, then it wouldn't be an issue. But we've got a good bit of grading and topography at play here, which makes it more challenging. Makes sense. So the state abandonment process timeline, we started with a notice of intent to abandon on September 29th, which was the day after the site plan was approved. We sent a letter to VDOT about Roanoke County's potential intent to abandon a portion of Robertson Lane. We also mailed letters to property owners and tenants with frontage on Robertson Lane. On October 4th, Robertson Lane was posted with signs in 3 locations, which is required by state code. We also ran advertisements in the Roanoke Times on October 4th and October 22nd. And then on November 4th, the notice of intent to abandon concluded. The next stage of the process was the public hearing notification period, which was also 30 days. And that was in advance of this meeting today. So on November 9th, Roanoke County mailed letters again to property owners and tenants with frontage on Robertson. On the 10th, Robertson was posted with new signs in 3 locations. And then on November 12th and 28th, advertisements ran in the Roanoke Times to meet state code. The comments we received through these periods, on November 2nd, Roanoke County and VDOT staff met with Greg Dunbar and his attorney, Justin Steele, on site at his business, which is outlined in red, to discuss the type and length of vehicles that access his welding business and how the proposed branch turnaround would likely not accommodate those vehicles, and the 1946 easement providing access to Williamson Road. Mr. Steele sent a letter outlining these concerns on November 4th, and that letter is included in your packet with attachments. Mr. Dunbar and Mr. Steele are also here today. On December 5th, Roanoke County and VDOT staff met with Mr. North and Cliff Cranwell on site to discuss potential impacts to the Cranwell property. Mr. Cranwell had no concerns with the proposed project. And the Cranwells own the property outlined in red, as well as a lot of property back behind this office building. They own land to the north and to the east. Information requested. We requested information of the applicant about the turning movements using proposed branch turnaround for the 56-foot-long vehicle that Mr. Dunbar states accesses Dunbar Welding. We wanted to see how that vehicle could potentially use the branch turnaround. And then we asked Mr. Dunbar for photos and dimensions of vehicles accessing Dunbar Welding to verify the 56-foot-long dimension. We wanted to make sure that that was what was needed. So at this point, I have the additional information received just before the meeting, so I want to bring your attention to the third concept that's in front of you, and I will, can point to the board over here. Do you want me to take the mic with me?
Yeah, that would probably be best. Make sure it's on.
Make sure it's green.
Yep.
And I don't know, I know you have it in front of you, but I also want the audience to see, so is this an okay position?
Sure.
Okay, I'm sorry I don't have it available to put up on the screens. So the new concept that was discussed just before the meeting shows a potential amendment to the turnaround, showing truck movements in more of a teardrop cul-de-sac fashion, where there would be more room to circulate the large vehicles that Mr. Dunbar has accessing his building. It does use some of his front driveway for the turnaround, but the 56-foot-long vehicle shows that it can maneuver better in this scenario than in the branch-style turnaround scenario. So just prior to the meeting, I talked with the applicant, we talked with Mr. Dunbar and his attorney, and with VDOT, and it seems that we may have something we can work with, that everyone seems to agree upon, is an amended turnaround that's more of a teardrop style instead of a branch. So it's not a full circle cul-de-sac, but it should work better than what was proposed. Are there any questions on that? And I'm sure the applicant can talk much more about it than I can, but that's new information.
Give him an opportunity.
Yeah, I got a question of Megan now.
Well, I just have one more slide, and then I'm happy to answer questions. So our next steps, within 4 months of the public hearing, the Board of Supervisors must either approve a resolution abandoning a section of highway or dismiss the proposed abandonment and provide VDOT a resolution indicating that the locality does not support the abandonment and request that the mileage remain in the VDOT inventory. So the last point, we do potentially have a consensus on this new concept. So I can try to answer questions, and the applicant can answer questions as well. And then that is my last slide. Mr.
Process question with
Yes, sir.
respect to the county and VDOT. So if this is acceptable to both parties, how long does it take VDOT and Roanoke County to approve the new idea that was just broached before the meeting?
So the site
Timeline.
plan on the top right is currently part of the approved site plan.
I understand that.
So,
I'm talking about the one on the left.
well, we just have a turning movement sketch. So it needs to be engineered and designed and made sure that the grading works. So it will constitute an amendment to the site plan.
Sure. And by the time that arrives to your office and to VDOT, how long does it take? Just a matter of a day, two?
I'm not sure I can answer that question because it goes through the development review process. Ideally, it would take, for a minor amendment, maybe a week or two. But that's a different process in a different department that I'm part of, but I don't run.
Okay. That's fine. You've answered my question. 1 to 2 weeks is what it sounds like. at best.
Potentially. And the holidays are coming up.
Of course, everybody comes back on January 2nd, they're like, it's starting a car, it's been dead for 2 weeks with a battery, has to be jumped. So it might be a little longer, I guess. Huh? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for staff?
Megan, in looking at the resolution that is included in our agenda, does any, with respect to the changes that you submitted to us this afternoon, and I know they still have to go through site plan review and approve all that, but does the resolution have to be altered or amended? As I read it, I don't think so, but the resolution does not reference an approved site plan, does it?
It does not. And what we're really talking about, again, is this
The abandonment.
oddly shaped cul-de-sac
Yeah.
piece. So regardless of how the turnaround is really constructed, as long as we are going to have a turnaround at the end of the day that VDOT is satisfied with, I do not believe the resolution needs to be amended, and I will, of course, defer to our county attorney.
That is correct.
Thank you. Because I just, after we hear all the people speak at the public hearing, and assuming it's the pleasure of the board to approve the resolution today, and I don't know if it is or not, I just wanted to make sure that if we did want to go forward, no amendments or revisions to the the draft resolution that's in our agenda need to go forward at this time. So we could approve the resolution today, and that's fine. Thank you.
That's my understanding, yes.
Any other questions for staff before we move on to the petitioner?
So just want to make sure that we get on record. Mr. Lubeck, is that correct? Could you
Yes, sir,
answer
that
the
is
affirm?
correct. There is no need to amend them.
No need to amend? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Cronin. So is a representative of the petitioner here and wanting to address the board? Thank you. If you would please state your name and address.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Max Wiegard. My address is 4968 Wing Commander Drive, Roanoke, Virginia 24018. I am a principal with the Miles Stockbridge Law Firm, and my firm has the pleasure of representing Sheets in connection with this project and some others throughout the Commonwealth, and especially in the Roanoke Valley. First things first, I'd like to express my gratitude to Ms. Cronice, to other members of the Department of Community Development at the county, as well as to VDOT, especially to Ashley Mathena, who've been great to work with and have really been very cooperative, resourceful, and helpful throughout what Ms. Cronice noted was a complicated development process, especially for an unusual set of circumstances like we found on Robertson Lane. I think Ms. Cronice has summarized very well the background of this proceeding and why we're here. I'd like to walk through, just from Sheets' perspective, the steps in the process we've taken, and especially this late-breaking news that Ms. Cronice was amazing to get before you today for your review. Sheets is a family-owned company. I won't belabor that point, but I'm sure you will hear it at different times. Again, I'm Max Wiegard. Here with me today are Ryan Gatewood, who is the engineer representing Sheets in connection with this project, as well as Tony Caruso, who is with Sheets, who has been leading Sheets' charge on this project. Mr. Casado is not here. He's actually at a public hearing in Central Virginia that's starting in a few hours, so he sends his regrets. We also have a number of the neighboring property owners who are here represented today, as well as Representative Jeff Deeds, who's with the, who would ultimately be Sheets' landlord, because this is an acquisition, consolidation, and ground lease scenario. Well, what I'd like to really walk you through, as Ms. Cronice noted, some of the background information about the property at issue. Again, we're talking about this, we're talking about this little oddly shaped, ooh, geez. I'm doing the wrong thing.
The laser doesn't work.
I'm sorry. Well, we're talking about that weird Little Dipper shaped, or Big Dipper shaped parcel that is actually owned in fee simple by VDOT. And so the steps in the process would be to have you all approve the abandonment of the property, and then as another step, the applicant would actually have to acquire the parcel from VDOT after it's abandoned. And the standard, one of the things that Ms. Cronice didn't mention in her presentation to you, is that the standard we've been trying to meet is alleviating the public necessity for the cul-de-sac, right? And so initially, when we were discussing what that means, alleviating that public necessity, and practically what steps have to be taken to get to that threshold, the plan was for Sheets and the prospective property owner to obtain a land use permit authorizing Sheets to demolish the existing cul-de-sac and build this T turnaround that's shown in this approved site plan, to essentially alleviate the public necessity, because now you've got the T turnaround, it replaces the cul-de-sac, therefore the cul-de-sac is no longer necessary or required. And then actually build that T turnaround in order to alleviate that public necessity. After further discussions, we came to an understanding that Sheets wouldn't have to actually demolish the existing cul-de-sac and build the T turnaround as a replacement, but instead that it was the permitting, obtaining the land use permit from VDOT, obtaining approval of the plans for demolition of the cul-de-sac and installation of the T-turnaround, that was the triggering event. And so once those plans were approved, then the application was filed seeking the abandonment of the cul-de-sac. Why we're here with the approved site plan is that the existing cul-de-sac is a 30-foot small cul-de-sac. Mr. Gatewood and the Sheets design team proposed the T-turnaround as a replacement to the existing cul-de-sac and its design. Those are the plans that were submitted to the county and to VDOT. Those are the plans that were approved. The land use permit was issued, and the project was, that limited scope project was bonded. It was after the initiation, as Mr. Cronise noted, of the abandonment proceedings and during the public comment period that Sheets first became aware of Mr. Dunbar's use of the property, or the cul-de-sac, and his concerns about this proposal that's shown on the approved site plan. Since we were notified of Mr. Dunbar's objection, we have had numerous conversations with his attorney, Mr. Steele, as well as with Ms. Mathena at VDOT and with representatives of the county to discuss potential solutions. The solution being to achieve that objective where the cul-de-sac is no longer necessary, no longer has a public, is no longer is publicly necessary. And instead, we're replacing it with something that alleviates the need for the cul-de-sac. So what Sheets' designs team developed is what you see and what Ms. Cronise presented to you, and that is to increase the size of the area that would be dedicated and would become part of Robertson Lane, to expand it and make it into a teardrop shape that's not a full cul-de-sac, but it essentially makes a drive, a widened teardrop-shaped drive that allows for the turning movements to be made into Mr. Dunbar's property. The plan would be to finalize and develop, to take that concept, reduce it to actual formal plans, submit those to the county, submit those to VDOT for review and approval, and then to ultimately amend the site plan, amend its permit to develop that larger and dedicate that larger area as part of the expanded Robertson Lane. I will note that in the slides that we submitted in advance of the hearing, one of the reasons it took us a little while to come up with a final proposal with regard to expanding the shape. Again, we initially, Sheets' design team was working with saying, okay, we've got an existing 30-foot cul-de-sac, we're replacing it with the T-turnaround, essentially pulling that design for the T-turnaround right from VDOT's handbook and saying, this is appropriate. At the time, without understanding that someone was trying to use the cul-de-sac to turn semi-trailers around, I think the understanding was that that's a suitable alternative and a suitable replacement for the existing condition. So Mr. Gatewood and his colleagues did some, and really Mr. Gatewood did some great work in running models and looking at different categories of vehicles using the existing cul-de-sac in its current configuration, as well as using the proposed T-turnaround. What we found is that in each case, fire trucks, box trucks, and then even the semi-truck, each of these show a significant trespass, encroachment, turning off of the existing public right-of-way and onto private property in order to make that turn. So the objective ultimately is to modify the existing site plan to create a scenario where the turn by each of those classes of trucks up to the semi-trailer can be made within the existing right-of-way and ultimately the area, the driveway area on Mr. Dunbar's property, because the purpose of the turning area is to facilitate his continued use and operation of his business on his property. That's a brief summary of how we got to today and the late-breaking news of today. I apologize and appreciate your grace and your willingness to review and Mrs. Cronice's ability to produce for you a figure that you could see with the altered and expanded plan. But we wanted to go through the steps of analyzing this the right way, and go through the process of ultimately developing and proposing something that we think and are confident will work, will be safe, and ultimately is usable by Mr. Dunbar for his intended use. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have or defer to either Ryan or Tony, who may be able to answer those questions.
Sure,
if
so
they're
at
technical.
this time, I'll ask if there's any questions of Mr. Wygard.
Yeah,
Yes,
question.
Mr. North?
Yes,
Madam
Mr.
Chair. So in your presentation that we got around noon today, was on the left, the amended plan that was just presented by Ms. Cronice, is that contained in here on one of the latter?
It is
No.
not, and it came through this afternoon.
Okay.
And so, again, apologies for that. The presentation was actually completed some time ago and
Sure.
ultimately
Okay.
was finalized
Good.
before we got the revised figure.
There were so many
apologies for that.
drawings in there, I just wanted to clarify that, just to be sure. I
When-
thought there was one that looked like it might have been, that's why I asked the
Well,
question.
when I saw and you know, Mr. Gatewood is a brilliant engineer. I am a humble lawyer, with apologies. And when I saw the initial figures that he prepared, which were fantastic, I asked him if it would be possible to make them a little more legible by a layperson such as me. So what we presented is something that I hope it makes sense and is understandable. But if you have any technical questions, I'm sure he can answer them.
Any other questions for Mr. Wygard? Any questions? Any questions? Thank you
No.
very much.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
And so at this point, we will open up the public hearing, and I have several people who have signed up to speak on this petition, and I'm going to go through the list, and as you come forward to speak, if you would please speak directly into the microphone. You have 3 minutes, and we have a light system of green, yellow, and red. You start with 3 minutes. When you get down to 1 minute, it turns yellow, I believe is the way it works. And when it turns red, we ask that you wrap up your comments quickly. And so for some of you, you may have had something that you needed to say, and then there was a lot of negotiation. If you decide that you no longer have commentary, just let us know that you no longer need to speak. So the first on the docket is Mr. Steele, Justin Steele. If you would come forward, please, state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon. I'm Justin Steele. I'm at 3048 Brambleton Avenue, Roanoke, Virginia. I'm with the law office of James Steele. I'm here representing Mr. Greg Dunbar, back here of Dunbar Welding and Repair. And the reason that we are objecting to this is because the initial approved design was insufficient for his needs. I submitted a PowerPoint presentation, which I think has been printed off and provided to you. Mr. Dunbar's been located here for 23 years. He's been fabricating, welding, repairing large machinery, and regularly has large trucks, typically 56 feet or so, come through about 2 or 3 times a week into this, into the cul-de-sac that exists as it is today. The proposed idea from Mr. Gatewood's engineering was that he couldn't turn around in the cul-de-sac as it exists today. That's actually, according to Mr. Dunbar, not true. He's able to do it. And that's largely because of the next slide, which shows the GIS depicts the owned property by VDOT is actually quite a bit larger than the section that is marked, that has asphalt on it. So Mr. Dunbar utilizes that when he turns around the trucks. The next slide is where our real problem came in, and it's with that T turnaround right there. It just isn't deep enough, and it would make it very difficult, if not impossible, for Mr. Dunbar to have semi-trucks come in, pull into his lot, and then back out without then running up into and knocking out his mailbox and a wood fence and a ditch, and going into a ditch. And so that's our complaint. That's why we're here. I have included a couple of just Google Maps screenshots that show exactly what would be taken out under the current approved plan. I will note, we discussed and negotiated regarding this new plan, and we think it's much better. We think that we can really work with this new plan, pending that the cul-de-sac will remain for Mr. Dunbar's use so long as this is being constructed, so that he's not in a position where there is a period of time of a couple of weeks or a couple of months or a year or something where he can't get his materials in or his customers can't bring in their things that have to be repaired. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. I'm happy to discuss further, but that's everything I have to say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Appreciate your commentary. Next is T. Wayne Jones. Will you please come forward? Okay, thank you. And next is Jeff Deeds.
I no longer need to speak,
Thank
you.
Thank you. And the last one is Mr. Robert Young.
I don't need to speak either, thank you.
Well, that was easy. Thank you very much.
Your dad doesn't.
You're right, you're right. So at this time, we will now close the public hearing. And with that, if there's any more board discussion, or if not, I'm ready to entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, sounds like to me that at the last minute, things have taken a turn for the best and resonates with what we'd all hoped in the planning department, economic development, as well as our legal department, that as Rachel had said, who's not here, that these two parties could need to work this out. It seems like that's been done. So with that said, if there's no other board questions, I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution abandoning 0.03 mile portion of State Route 1901 Robertson Lane, which is currently on the Virginia Department of Transportation secondary highway system in the Highlands Magisterial District. I find no public necessity exists for the continuance of the portion of State Route 1901 Robertson Lane, which has been proposed to be abandoned, and therefore I move that we approve the resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
And would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Norworth?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes, so the motion's been approved. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is, let's see, public hearing G. Public hearing to receive citizen comments regarding amendments to the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget in accordance with Code of Virginia, Section 15.2-2507. Ms. Laurie Gerhart, Director of Finance and Management Services, welcome. Good afternoon.
Does it ever make you feel bad when everybody gets up and leaves when you start speaking? Start it. It's not bad.
Not at all, actually. It's a real effort for me to come up here to begin with, because I'd like to stay in my corner and hunker down on my computer, so.
This just lets
The
you
less
sneak-
that's here
sneak
is
things
better.
through.
That's right, seamless. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. This is a public hearing to secure citizens' comments concerning amending the fiscal year 23-24 budget by $48,113,501.44 from the Roanoke County Public Schools fiscal year 22-23 year-end funds to the fiscal year 23-24 Roanoke County Public Schools budget, and $4,966,171 to the fiscal year 23-24 Roanoke County Public Schools budget, and $102,500 from the Virginia 911 Services Board for a staffing recognition grant authorizing the payment of monetary bonuses to the county's eligible E911 employees. Section 15.2-2507 of the Code of Virginia as amended provides that whenever such amendment exceeds 1% of the total expenditures shown in the adopted budget, the county must publish notice of a meeting and public hearing. The notice must state the county's intent to amend the budget and include a brief synopsis of the proposed budget amendments. This notice was published on December 5th, 2023. Conducting the public hearing does not guarantee the requested appropriations will be approved. It is recommended that the board hold the required public hearing and board action appropriating funds as provided in this notice will occur later during this meeting.
Great. Are there any questions? At this time, then, I'll open the public hearing. Madam Clerk, have there been any
No, ma'am, I
citizens
have
that
none
have
for this
requested
issue.
to speak?
And the lawyer ran off the rest of them.
I know. So then we will close the public hearing, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item H, is there any board member that has an appointment that has not yet been given to the clerk?
I have one, Madam Chair.
Really?
Really?
Well, I'm glad everybody was sitting down for that. I've been in contact with Todd Ross about filling the vacant seat on the Economic Development Authority.
Awesome.
So I would like to add him to the consent agenda. If there's no objection, it'd be I-10.
I-10, great. Thank you. Any objections?
No objection.
Yes, Mr. Redford.
Yeah, I got a question.
Okay.
So I see a spot is opening up on the BZA in the Windsor Hills Magistral District. Do we normally advertise those openings?
That's at the preference of the board member.
Oh, okay.
Do you want it advertised?
I'll be glad to do that for you.
Yeah, so, yes, I would like that.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
take care of it.
Thank you. So, let's see, where are we? So we've got an amended consent agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the amended resolution?
I'll make a motion.
And is there a second?
Second.
And would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Norworth?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes. Item J is citizen comments and communications. Are there any citizens that have signed up to speak, Madam Clerk?
No, ma'am.
Item K, is there any board member who wishes to remove an item for the consent agenda? I think I got out of order here, you all. Item K,
It's reports.
reports. Is there any board member that wishes to remove an item from the?
Madam Chair, I move that we receive and accept the 2 reports that are listed on our agenda.
Perfect, thank you. And is there a second?
Second.
And would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Peters?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Norworth?
Yes.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes. Item L is reports and inquiries of board members, and first is Mr. North.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, on November the 16th, the county hosted a groundbreaking event to mark the construction of Roanoke County Public Safety Building Number 12 in the Bonsack area, the new Bonsack Fire Station, an $8 million, 12,500 square foot project anticipated to open in early 2025 to serve communities in East Roanoke County. I want to thank staff and their work on this. This will improve response times in the area by 18%, will also reduce demands from the Vinton Station and Roanoke City Station 14, and it was truly an example of regional cooperation from the landowner to the city to the county, and everything was just absolutely perfect that day for the groundbreaking. I want to thank Mr. Peters, who attended and spoke as well, and being a fire and safety minded fellow, I think it's going to work out just fine.
Yes, it is.
And I hope that it's open a little sooner than early 25, but we'll see how that plays out. Also attended a couple of legislative meetings along the way. We had the one in Salem, the 32nd annual legislative meeting and breakfast, where we heard representatives of the General Assembly talk about this year's session. They also had one for the Roanoke Valley Allegheny Regional Commission, where it was the first time the Regional Commission has proposed an agenda of its own, which we will approve tomorrow at our meeting, and see how that progresses and whether we want to do it in the future. There are several other planning district commissions that do this around the state. The Greater Williamson Road Area Business Association, Planning and Economic staff, and myself attended the meeting and luncheon on December 5th. Val Brown, the director, gave her State of the Road talk. And by the way, this is a shout out to Gene McGuire, who was honored. Gene retired from the Greater Williamson Road Area Business Association, where he has served since its inception in 1981. So congratulations, Gene, and thank you for your service. That's quite an honor. Also, smart scale was a big topic the last couple of months, and just a quick summary. The Commonwealth Transportation Board approved some changes to smart scale. They approved some minor modifications to the economic development where we need to get our properties into the Virginia scan system, which Megan knows about. Haven't heard from the other Megan. They talked about eliminating step 2, which is where we had a lot of success getting projects like crosswalks, projects less than 10 million, greenways, that kind of thing. So what this means now is we're going to have to compete within the district for the district grant pot of money in the Salem district going forward. We'll have to see how that works out. The land use application was interesting. Land use has been part of Smart Scale, but they wanted to amend it. And when they did propose and talk about it, they had a tie vote, and then he went back and had another vote. And this time they eliminated all land use, which is contrary to the General Assembly and the Code of Virginia. So we think something's going to be done to fix that snafu going forward. In any instance, the changes were minor. All the applications did not get reduced like we had thought they were, so we all have the same amount of applications as before in the region, which is a big help. I-81, a couple of things going on there. Chairman Austin of the I-81 Commission has written a letter to members of the 81 Committee with a proposed resolution to be considered in the General Assembly to include I-81 in a JLARC study that's going to take into account tolling in Northern Virginia and be considered for support along I-81. What this means, we don't know, but one person has indicated it's going to be interesting to see how you can toll a federal interstate highway system, and so we'll see how that progresses. The other change is good news that also came out of the Commonwealth Transportation Board meeting in Richmond. And even before then, Delegate Austin had written to the governor and asked him to take into account a project in the Salem district at northbound mile marker 116 to 128, an estimate of $360 million be available because it has a shortfall of $70 million. So they're trying to get that extra $70 million. And another project in the Stanton district, which I won't get into, but I will tell you this. What we have heard is exits 137 to 128 southbound has now been requested by the Commonwealth Transportation Board to the governor to include in his budget a project that was defeated last year in the smart scale after being requested because it will save $75 million in today's dollars to do it now in the future rather than 10 years from now. So that's a big ask, and we'll see how that progresses as well. At this time, I want to thank Supervisor Peters for your 10-year service on the Board of Supervisors. You're part of our family, and you're going to be gone. And we don't know who's going to be sitting over there now. I don't know. We'll see in the future. But, you're going to be closer to us than you ever have because we're going to probably knock on your door more than just to say hello.
Please do.
And best wishes in your new position as you go to school the next few days. We'll miss you, but you won't be far away, as you mentioned, and we will work with you in 2024 on many things that I hope will help the citizens of Roanoke County as you take over. I hope you have a smooth transition. I also want to thank Chairman Hooker. Somewhere in English literature, there's a saying that was the best of times, it was the worst of times. But it was good times overall, more so than bad times. And she's feeling a sigh of relief here today, I think. But I just want to thank you for your leadership in guiding this board through a great, successful year of proactive economic development and success, and not to mention all the other things we've heard about yesterday and at the State of the County. And thank you for your service, and enjoy your holidays. I want to wish everybody a happy holidays and Happy New Year to all, and peace on earth and goodwill to all. And let's make 2024 even better year as we move forward in making Roanoke County grow on the map. And let's recognize civility going forward, not only here, as we always accustomed to do, but also in anything we do with our citizens, but also our colleagues on many boards around the Commonwealth of Virginia and in this area. Thank you very much.
And does anything else need to be said?
I think I said it all.
Just kidding. We got more. We got more. Mr.
Can I borrow your
Mahoney.
yellow sheet?
Yeah, you sure can.
Mr.
I'll tell you
Mahoney.
that. Yeah.
3 comments, Madam Chair. First of all, Jason, we're going to miss you, and I think we all made our comments to you earlier. If you are involved in the process of renovating the offices, Richard, I want you to put his trailer out in the parking lot. Second, Martha, I just want to say, your presentation last week at State of the County was fantastic. It was excellent.
Thank you.
And I just want to compliment you publicly for all that. Finally, I want to echo what Mr. North indicated to all our citizens. During the holiday season, folks, enjoy yourselves, but please be safe. Whether you're celebrating Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa, I have acquaintances who do strange things on the winter solstice on the 21st. But whatever your holiday is, please do it safely. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr.
David?
Radford.
Yeah, I just want to add to Mr. North's fire station that it will have solar.
Yes, it will.
And that's a big thing. We see that becoming more and more prevalent with a lot of structures. I presume they'll be roof mounted, but anytime that we can use, we're always looking for grant money. Well, this is more than grant money. This is free energy from the sun. So I'm always thankful that if we have an opportunity to add solar to our structures, that's setting a good example. Another item, Jason, again, we spoke a little while ago. I'm sure you'll see me because I have a small business and I know the Commissioner of Revenue very well. It's that time of year that we get those forms in and we have to fill them out. Those forms might be better if they were digitized or, we're looking forward to some of those things that. Yeah.
There's Mariah.
Yeah, that's
There she is.
a little easier to work with, but, and then also personal property tax, that stuff, same way. So we're looking forward to your ideas and things that can happen there. You've kind of conquered this, and now you're over here, you're going to conquer something else, and that's kind of neat. Life goes on. And I want to also echo for, happy holidays for everybody, happy Hanukkah. And I agree with Mr. North. Let's have a little bit of civility, not only locally, but globally. That needs to be said. And Martha, thank you for your year leading 5 dudes and 4 dudes. Sorry, I was thinking 5. I didn't do my subtraction. The 4 guys. If you include Richard.
There you go.
That's how
If you include Richard, it's 5. So,
Nice save.
But great year you had with us, and I agree with Mr. Mahoney. The state of the county message was point on and very well presented. So thank you. That's all.
We're going to let her do it next year, too.
Mr. Peters.
Well, the first thing I'm going to say is, way to go, Williamsburg Terriers. Okay, I'll throw that in there. They had a great year, a football team. Unfortunately, they fell to Liberty Christian Academy in the semifinals, but what a great year for Williamsburg. I'll make a comment about the IT department. They're real friendly with me now, but once I get across the hall, they may not be when I start asking about the number of changes I want to make, but they'll be the first to probably tell me no. But I am looking forward to the new position and how I can continue to assist the board and administration in that particular seat. But I guess one thing, I've started my years on the board with, I finished a lot of my board meetings this way, but we can do a lot of things as a board. We can make a lot of decisions, we can pass a lot of ordinances, but at the end of the day, the most valuable asset we have in Roanoke County is our employees.
True.
So at the end of the day, I can't say enough great things about our employees. I get to work with so many of them in the public safety arena, but also, like today I called Tark at the last minute and said, hey, I got someone I need you to meet with. And, everybody has always been just wonderful. And I hear it from our citizens, and then that gives you a great feeling as a board member. But, and I guess I also didn't mention it as much as I probably should have earlier, but to the administration, to Richard, to Peter for keeping me out of jail, for Rebecca and Doug, I mean, the whole administration, you do such a wonderful job for us, and I appreciate everything you do. And you, also, you know, they're always eager to talk to me now, but when I get down the hall, they might, oh, here he comes again, what's he got now? But, you know, we're going to make the best out of that. So, lastly, Martha, it has been a interesting year, to say the least. And I think you've done a hell of a job.
Thank you.
And you did a great job with the state of the county. I know this board, as I stated earlier, I've seen it at its best and at its worst. And I think that this is a wonderful board. There's a bright future ahead of Roanoke County. I know I'm leaving it in very, very capable hands, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's next on the horizon. And to everyone out there, to all of our employees, to all of our friends and out there, our citizens in our community, I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas and a great New Year. Thank you.
Jason. Thank you.
I have one question. You're going to have a strategic plan for the Commissioner of Revenue's office too?
By April 1st.
You're serious? All right, there you go.
So
You
I'm
should
going
know
to,
me well enough by now.
I shouldn't have said anything.
so just a couple of real quick comments. I wanted to say thank you to all the staff who worked so diligently to pull off the State of the County. There are so many hours that are put involved in putting that all together, and I just really appreciate all the work that was done there. So, Jason, we are going to miss you. We know where you're going to be. We'll be in touch often and be coming to visit, and Godspeed in the next step. And so to everyone else, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and I can't quit just yet. We've got some things we've got to read here. We're going to go into a closed meeting. I'm going to move that we go into a closed session pursuant to Code of Virginia, Section 2.2-3711A1, for the board to discuss prospective candidates for appointment of a specific public officer, namely candidates to fill a vacancy on the Board of Supervisors. And the board will now recess to go, I guess I need to make a motion. I already did. I need a second.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
before a second is made, I would like to state that I will not be participating in the closed session
Thank
due to
you.
the nature of it.
Thank you, sir. So is there a second?
Second.
And then would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Peters? Ms.
Abstain.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Mr. Bradford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes, and so the board will now recess to the third floor for closed session.